Hello guys, and welcome to another video where I'm going to be going through my own personal review of the Inkee Falcon Plus gimbal for action cameras. And now this is a unsponsored, not biased in any way review, because I bought this gimbal with my own money just because I wanted to have a gimbal with an action camera, and I've been using it for about a month now just to give it a go, and I'm going to give you my thoughts. So if you are considering purchasing this gimbal, then maybe this review will be useful. So this gimbal is specifically designed for action cameras. In particular, it's designed for the GoPro camera because it can actually control a GoPro camera. But you can also take other action cameras like the Insta360 and the DJI Osmo action camera as well. However, those can't be controlled with the gimbal, but they can still be used and balanced as just a normal gimbal, so you do lose a little bit of functionality with those. So in this video, I've decided to break it down into the advantages and the disadvantages, and then we're going to go through some test footage, which of course you're going to want to see before making a purchase decision. Okay, with no further ado, let's start the video. So this gimbal, the Inkee Falcon Plus gimbal here, is specifically designed for action cameras, as you can see, and I've got it mounted with the GoPro Hero 11 here, so that's the latest GoPro camera as of the time of recording, and it works perfectly well with this particular gimbal. Now, one of the nice features of this particular gimbal is that it actually has a reverse charging function, which allows you to charge the action camera while it's being used on the gimbal. Now, I didn't realise that until actually I discovered that diving down in the depths of the manual somewhere. But if you actually connect your, on the side here, you've got the normal charging socket, which is a normal USB socket here. And with a normal charging lead, you can actually plug it into there and into your charging port on your GoPro, which of course is still accessible on this gimbal because you've got plenty of space to plug it in. And the USB socket acts as an output as well as an input, so it's bi-directional. So you can charge your action camera, and that's pretty nice. But to do that, you have to double click the on button 5 times to switch on that feature, and then double click it 5 times. Not double click it, you have to click it 5 times to actually be able to switch on the feature. But of course, it not only does it actually charge your action camera, but you can also charge, for example, a mobile phone as well. But now, unfortunately, this gimbal does not have an accessory mount at all on it, and it's a little bit of a shame they omitted that, because that would be particularly useful. So although it can charge, for example, a mobile phone, for example, you have no way of actually being able to mount a holder to the actual gimbal. So that's a little bit of a shame. Perhaps in another future version they will actually include that. So what attracted me to this particular gimbal initially was the actual ability for it to support the GoPro camera along with the media mod. Now, the OHEM iSteady gimbal is very tight and only supports the action camera. It's impossible to be able to put the GoPro with the media mod on it, or the Insta360 with the external cage. But this gimbal, no problem at all. You've got plenty of space to work with. So you can have your media mod, plus you can also have, for example, the Rode Go microphone also on top. So the actual payload for this gimbal is up to 300 grams. So it gives you a little bit of space to work with, but not a huge amount. You can't go absolutely crazy with this at all. So this gimbal comes with a little tripod stand. It's actually quite a big tripod stand, to say the least. But it might be useful, for example, because the actual handle is actually quite small, so there's not a huge amount of space to hold on to with just the handle. So you've got this extra extension sort of tripod thing, so you can use that as well in 2 hands if you particularly want to. But if you want it quite compact, you can simply unscrew the tripod, and then you have just the actual gimbal handle itself. As you can see, it's quite small, and it's very good for hand holding just in one hand. And it's also very light. I would say it's about, I just measured it, it's just under 300 grams in weight, which is very nice. So I was also attracted to this gimbal because I wanted to use it as a lightweight gimbal for traveling and just to pop in the bag. So that is one nice advantage. So let's just switch on the gimbal. Okay, so off it's going. So you've got a number of modes, and you've got the controls. Behind here you've got obviously the compulsory joystick, so that allows you to change the, let's just spin it around. Using the joystick allows you to move the camera up and down in a tilt axis and also in the panning axis like that. You've also got the on-off button, as well as a button for changing the mode. And you've got a series of modes here. So I'm currently in, what am I in? I'm in pan follow mode. So obviously that's allowing me to move the gimbal left to right. And if I press the mode button, I can then change to the other modes accordingly. If I hold down the trigger, I can actually switch on the all gimbal mode lock by holding it in once. All the lights come on. Let me just turn the gimbal around so you can see. And then I can actually then perform the maneuvers by locking the camera. Okay, so it's actually very easy to pair this gimbal with the GoPro camera, and then you can use the little button on the actual side here, and they are not the ones that you use on the main part of the gimbal, but they're actually located on the actual side, a small series of 3 small buttons, and they allow you to control the functions of the GoPro camera. Well, basically the function is you can start the recording on and off. So if I press the middle button, then the GoPro camera is now in a recording, and I can press it again to actually stop the GoPro recording, which is pretty nice. And then the other 2 buttons allow me to change the mode of the gimbal to photo mode and also time-lapse if that's your thing. Now I find it a little bit annoying that the actual button marked with small red here is on the side here rather than the one with a red circle on the back here, because instinctively I think the red circle means record, and I'm always pressing this button rather than the one on the side. But anyway, that's just a minor inconvenience. So another advantage is that the battery lasts about 9 hours officially. I've not actually tested that in the field, but it seems to certainly last quite a long time. I also like the fact that you can see the entire screen of the GoPro camera, unlike the Hohem iSteady camera, which actually partially covers some of the GoPro screen. So that's a very nice thing to be able to do, and you've got full access with your fingers to touch all the screen. Now let's go through some of the disadvantages of this particular gimbal. So one of the disadvantages is it doesn't actually have an expansion socket at all, unlike the Hohem, which does. So which means you can't mount, for example, a mobile phone next to it if you want to see what's on the screen, maybe if you're using the Insta360 or the GoPro and you want to control it, for example. Because of the fact you can actually see the entire screen while using it, then I don't think it's such a huge issue personally, but maybe you might beg to differ on that one. What else? Well, another disadvantage, unlike the Hohem, is that this gimbal is not splash proof at all. So, and that's the reason why is that the socket where you charge it is actually completely exposed to the elements, so don't start dunking this in a river or anything like that, or take it out in the rain. Maybe it's going to have a little bit of risk of electric shock, for example. So, be careful when you're using it. So the actual app that accompanies this gimbal, in my opinion, is not the best app in the world. It does look like it's been a little bit rushed through, to be honest. It does have a tendency sometimes to lose the connection with the actual gimbal. You have to sort of, if you have that issue, then you'll find you have to basically go to your phone, forget the actual device in the Bluetooth settings, and then repair it again, and then the app will start working. And I find that a little bit of a nuisance, and I haven't yet managed to find the version of the, I'm waiting for the update of the app to see where they fix that issue. But also in the app, you just have your standard features where you can actually control the gimbal remotely, and you can also start and stop the recording. But to be fair, it doesn't have something like a motion lapse feature like the Hohem does. So if you're into that, then you'll be a little bit disappointed. But again, if you're not really interested in that sort of thing, then maybe that's not too much of an issue. You can also have a very limited control on the customization of the motors, so you can have a few levels, sort of like low, medium or high for the strength of the motors, but you don't get as much control as you do with the Hohem gimbal. But you do get some better calibration abilities, so you can do a static calibration, and you can do a horizontal calibration, and you can also do a full calibration. That's quite useful if you do have any issues at all and you want to calibrate the gimbal. So I've taken this gimbal out with the GoPro camera to get some test footage. It's not the best test footage in the world, to be honest, but it's hopefully going to give you an idea of what this gimbal is capable of. So let's roll that example and I shall see you on the other side. Okay, so what is my conclusions on this particular gimbal? Now, I certainly do like this gimbal by the fact that it's actually very, very light, as you can see, and it is very, very compact. So I particularly enjoy using it, or my plan is to use it for traveling with the action camera, because I've also got a much larger gimbal and I find that a little bit of a nuisance when I'm traveling. So this I can quickly throw in my bag and it's perfect. So I hope you've enjoyed that unbiased review and my thoughts on this Inkee Falcon Plus gimbal. If you find this video at all useful, I'd appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel to support me and like the video and do all those good stuff. I certainly appreciate it. Take care guys and see you soon.